What about some strange stuff that you might have gotten when you were a secular rapper, with like groupies showing up in your hotel room? Do you have sticky situations with like Christian fans, complicated stuff?
No. No,
really?
No, I don't think. I don't think it has so much to do with, you know, are they well behaved or whatnot. I think it has more to do with just my whole mindset and outside of just being a rapper, but just as a person, as a man, is very different too. So I get what you're asking. So for example, maybe once upon a time in my younger days, right, you know, signing Rough Riders, young, just getting a record deal, it definitely was a mindset and a heart of, hey, we're going to London for a tour. Right away, the mentality is already, yo, how are the girls in London?
Right.
How's the clubs in London?
Right.
Yo, we're gonna have a ball, right? And that was the reality. Whereas now, this is by the grace of God. So it's not me saying like, man, look at me and look at how righteous and how on point I am. But God has really shifted my heart where, first and foremost, if I know I'm going to London for 2 weeks for a tour, and this whole London thing is a hypothetical, right? But if I know I'm going to London for a 2-week tour, first and foremost, the heaviest thing on my heart is that I'll be away from my wife and son for 2 weeks. And that's the first thought, right? So that alone right there shows you how perspectives and hearts can be shifted. But then even, okay, moving past the missing them for 2 weeks, going out there, literally from the moment I walk out the door, the thing that I'm thinking is, I wonder what God will do on this trip. Right? I wonder I wonder how I'll be challenged. I wonder how I'll be convicted. Now that's not to say that those elements won't be there. They'll be there, right? Especially it could be this 2-week tour, and this is where God has placed me now, because it's like, you know, on one Friday I'm performing at, you know, and this has just happened recently. I'm performing in North Philly at like a youth outreach at a, you know, straight up 7-day Adventist church, right? Like SDA church. And then the following Friday, I'm performing, maybe probably still in North Philly, but at like a straight nightclub. You know, doors open at 12:30, open bar, you know, and right before I go on stage, it's like, you know, it's going down, right? Like it's turn up. Turn down for what? Like it's that. And like I said, though, you know, when I go now in this season that I'm in, God really prepares me. Obviously, the team and the collective, we're all prepared. We know Jen's on the road, and going into those spaces is a different mindset. So to answer your question as far as like, well, back then what it was and right now what it is, and comparing the contrast, the biggest change is, I think, me. So it's not the setting. So far, I mean, like when I do the events that are more like faith-based in that sense, like, you know, it'll be like a church and their youth group wants to have me come and perform and share. I mean, it's funny you mentioned how, like, so are they more well-behaved? I mean, yes and no. I mean, these are still young people. There's still hormones. There's still, you know, excitement. There's still skimpy outfits. There's still, so, I mean, we need to be mindful of, you know, just that same thing we're saying where it's like, we look at it as, yeah, these are believers, and then there's non-believers, and they're so different. Yeah, they should be, because, you want to see the spirit working in a person, but I mean, the crucial thing, I think, and this is something I'm dealing with now too, is not to look at it as we're believers and we're above them. Right. And that whole us and them thing, I think, is already kind of like, I got to check myself about that. But that's the thing that we're working on, right? And I'm working on, and I hope we can work on together.
Okay, all right. And finally, so I'm going to give you 2 examples here. So we have No Malice. Formerly Malice of the Clips, very successful. Recently, though, converted to Christianity and wants nothing to do with his old lifestyle. And then we have Ja Rule, who just recently shared that he just got saved, but he says he's a baby Christian. He's not ready to just change everything and start writing gospel raps, you know. So I don't know, where do you identify it all with those 2 scenarios?
Well, the first thing I would say is, you know, I can't speak too much about either one of them, right? Because just as it relates to their walk and their faith, because, I mean, it is a very personal, you know, thing, right? Only each one of us and God knows where we're at, where our heart is at. So anytime there's, not even in relation to Ja Rule or Gene. I think of Gene. I don't think of No Malice, but No Malice. Anyone in that regards, I try to remind myself, Jen, do not for a second think you know where that person's at and where their heart is at, right? But with each one, I mean, I think what you shared about, you know, Mr. Rule, and in regards to him being very verbal and vocal that, hey, I'm a baby Christian, I'm not going to be, you know, out here dropping, you know, worship raps and all that. I love worship raps, but never, you know, don't catch me, you know, don't expect that. I think that's just a very authentic and honest viewpoint, and I mean, I'm encouraged by it. It's better that than him, you know, kind of putting on this whole like, yeah, praise God, I'm you know, I'm worship mode now, da 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 da. But knowing that he's still actually not there, so that's a lot of grace, to be honest. I think, and I would just hope that, and I'm sure God is providing, but the circle of people around him are you know, kind of encouraging and pushing him in that way, because that was a big element for me. So the biggest influence of my journey wasn't that it was like a solo mission, right? God was the main force, right? But around me, he placed a lot of people to, yeah, my favorite word, accountability, right? To keep me accountable, to keep me in check. So that's a big element. As far as Gene, aka Mr. No Malice, I want to say I had the privilege to actually. This is a little tidbit that I shared before. You know, I felt led to want to do a song with him. Wow. So I was working on a project, and I reached out, and we were able, through different mutual connections, to actually be on the phone. Right. So prior to that, never really encountering each other before meeting during our secular years. Right. I was always a fan. I grew up listening to the Clips. Right. Still am a huge Clips fan right now, even though the content may not be something that you know, I can receive fully, but I still appreciate the artistry of it. So we're on the phone, and I'm just geeked that, man, I'm on the phone with No Malice, right?
Right.
And we're talking, sharing our testimonies, catching up, great. And his response was pretty much, yeah, you know, music is music. Well, you know, we'll let that happen naturally, but yo, let's kick it. Come down to VA if you have time, and we'll build. So I'm like, absolutely. And this is all, you know, just out of, I don't want to say urgency, out of this wanting to connect with him. Right. The music was something I really wanted to do, but more so like, man, an opportunity to just connect with Gene, great. I go down to VA, man, this guy is super awesome, invites me into his home. The moment someone says, come to my home, opens his front door, leave your shoes right there, that's my son, that's my, you know, family, da-da-da, I'm sitting on his couch. The moment that occurs, it goes to another level. It's not, yo, I'll meet you at Starbucks and we'll catch up there. Come to my home, Jen. So I go down, I stay there for like 2 days, and in the end, I leave, and in the end, right now, sitting here, we've never done a song together, and it didn't happen, even though it started with that. So where God challenged me, and I had to really just assess myself, is, what did you want out of it in the beginning anyways, Jen? You say it wasn't about the song. So when it got to the very real moment, the pivotal moment, is when we were catching up on text, and I was just like, hey, so in regards to the song, you know, how do you feel? And he was very cordial and straight up. You know what, brother, I'm going to have to pass on this, right? Now is not the time. And then I was just like, I mean, on my end, I'm looking at my phone kind of heart sunk.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to do this track.
And I thought, and it looked like all signs pointed to go, right? You know? But then that's where God worked. And man, I don't even want to do a song with him anymore. Nobody wants to do a song with No Malice.
Something much better came out of that.
But like all jokes aside, it definitely was a blessing, even though initially I was really challenged, but God, you know, pulled me out of it.
All right. And there's actually, your comment just now actually makes me want to squeeze in one more question. So, do you think then, or do you feel like when you look into the future and you consider maybe your legacy and whatnot, do you feel like maybe God would bring you to a point where he would start opening up some doors maybe in your previous scenes to kind of be a light in a dark place and bring some transformation?
You know what? Here's a cool thing. Just recently, I had a chance to meet and really connect with Pastor Francis Chan.
Yes, I saw a photo of you guys on Twitter.
And once again, in the same way that I was super excited to meet No Malice, I was super excited to meet Francis, because 2 books that really were crucial, not crucial, but 2 books that really guided me and really helped me, unfold in my walk was Crazy Love being one, to where I even did a project called Crazy Love, right? And another one even after that I read, Forgotten God. So all that aside, I was able to meet with this person who wrote these 2 books that really spoke into me. So to actually engage with the individual I was, oh man, thrilled. And the reason I thought of him is because in our conversation, he said to me, you know what, Jen, after meeting you and listening to your new music, I'm just blown away, you know, not that I haven't been already, but just how God really works. And he was saying that in regards to, because he went online and YouTube some of my old stuff, the battle stuff, the Rough Rider stuff, and he's like, I don't even mean just the content of the songs and the lyrics, but this person that I'm sitting here in the studio with, it can't even be that same person. And I'm like, it's technically not, right? And you know, we're like, yeah, we agree on that. But I thought of him when you asked the question about the possibility, and if this is in God's will, then great, of in the future, in the near future, kind of some of the doors to the past being open and God placing me in certain places. And that was a big part of my conversation with, you know, Pastor Francis, just that the whole point of me sitting here with you is my testimony is, in that sense, it is, I started in the dark. And when I say the dark, I'm not saying that those people are dark, right? So I really need to be clear about that. Like, the enemy is not these rappers. To me, in my heart, God has placed me. The enemy is not the so-called secular rappers. Is a spiritual thing going on, right? So when I say dark, I just mean from a spiritual standpoint. Started out in the dark. Oh, by the grace of God, He pulled me out of it. And I'm still a work in progress, but now with this new foundation of faith, if he chooses to thrust me back into that darkness, let's do it, baby. I'm ready, right? Yeah. And, you know, the thing is, there is that, you know, why is the testimony of Paul the Apostle so powerful? Because you know of Saul, right? True. Why, you know, like, to me, there's so many, you know, like, just uplifting and encouraging, you know, lessons from the Bible, but a character that I really kind of can gravitate towards is Paul, in the sense that he was once Saul. So when people look at me now, they look at these songs I put on, they're like, yo, Jen, I can't even believe that this is happening to you, man. You used to do the battle raps and this. And I'm like, you need to go read about Paul, because this right here is nothing. I mean, all I did was just stop battle rapping, and you know, I'm praising God now with my raps, right? Go look at Paul's life, and then maybe this, you know, you'll see really how minor this transformation is. But yeah, you know, I think that's a part of how God works, and I'm excited just to see the coming days. Who knows, you know? We talk about it like there's so much time ahead of us, right? And so many opportunities, but every second is not guaranteed. And that's kind of the inspiration behind 1459. So that's what I'm working on right now, and excited. I think that album actually very much has a lot to do with this conversation we're having, because even if you ask me, right, or anyone asks me, is it a Christian album, Jen? Like, I mean, I would kind of be hesitant to say if it is or it isn't, right? Because am I going into it saying, yo, I'm going to make a Christian album? No. How am I going into it? I want to make the most authentic, organic, genuine project. And with that said, you know, hopefully that's what comes across, and ultimately really God use it. That's what it is. And so is it an album that I want God to use fully? Absolutely.